Wear a suit, bro. That's the message. That's the message being plastered all over Washington, D.C. today. It used to be, stuff like stop the steal. It used to be stuff like stop the gangs from, killing us. Now it's wear a suit, bro. There's a building. I don't even know who runs this building, but there's this building in D.C. And every time something cool happens, or every time there's some big deal going on in Washington, D.C., they've started hanging these signs. Last week, they hung a sign that said something like "Heal soon, big balls," or "Heal well, big balls." After Big Balls, the Doja employee got attacked while thwarting a carjacking in the district, which is really one of the things. That's one of the big things that led to Donald Trump's crackdown on crime. His big crime crackdown. Donald Trump nationalizing, federalizing troops in D.C. That's one of the big things that happened. And now, well, here, I'll show it to you. It's right here. They put up a sign that says, "Wear a suit, bro." And this is, of course, to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who is in Washington, D.C., to meet with President Donald Trump and European leaders. And guess what he's not wearing?
How are you, sir?
Thanks so much. Good to see you. How are you, sir?
Oh,
okay. Thank you so much. Hi, good to see you.
great.
How are you?
That is President Zelenskyy meeting with various representatives from the White House and from Washington, D.C., representatives that are going to be part of the negotiations today.
Thank you very
and
much.
They are. Steve Witkoff is there, I believe, and they're prepping for the big meeting. And of course, Zelenskyy there, not in a suit, but in a black T-shirt. He's sporting the black tee. He didn't do the suit. He's doing the T-shirt. Now, this is even more casual than the last time he got thrown out of the White House and he was wearing like a black army coat. Now he's wearing just a black tee, just a plain black tee, which wasn't that a musical group? That may have been plain white tees. It doesn't matter. Either way, Zelenskyy not dressed up for the occasion. This is Volodymyr Zelenskyy in true Volodymyr Zelenskyy fashion, no pun intended. This is him thumbing his nose at the United States of America and all these other people who, for whatever reason, just drop everything and kowtow and come running to him whenever he needs them. That's why there's going to be so many. I mean, there's so many. There's so many European leaders slated to meet with Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Donald Trump today in Washington, D.C. It is a little, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a little crazy when you see all the pomp and circumstance that's going on. And the media, forget about it. Here's a president, the Donald Trump, president of the United States, who not only has negotiated several peace deals already, but has come closer to negotiating a peace settlement with Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Vladimir Putin than anyone else. Donald Trump has now had multiple meetings with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He's got Volodymyr Zelenskyy and the European Union in his home to discuss even further today. He had a meeting on Friday with Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil, which is a huge deal. And the media trying to not only downplay it, but make it seem like a negative, make it seem like a bad thing. Marco Rubio was all over the news this weekend. He was on all the Sunday shows. The guy woke up Sunday morning and just went everywhere and got berated, but did an excellent job literally pimp smacking all of these fake news reporters on the Sunday morning shows who are so unqualified. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. Margaret Brennan is probably the worst reporter I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know how she got the helm of not Meet the Press, the other one. What is it? It's not Sunday Morning, not Meet the Press. It's called, I don't even remember what it's called. It's got Face the Nation. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, and she's the worst. I can't think of a Republican conservative leader who hasn't gone on this show and just told her what's what. This is the all J.D. Vance, I don't really care Margaret Brennan. And now Marco Rubio rolls in there. She tries to give him some kind of like gotcha question or say something that's just totally not true about Ukraine and Zelenskyy to everyone else. And he just schools her. I played it earlier during the 47 Daily Podcast, which hopefully you're listening to the 47 Daily Podcast because it's awesome. But it's you know what? It's worth watching again. Because Marco Rubio is just such a masterful Secretary of State, such a great speaker, and has absolutely no qualms telling the media how ridiculous they're being when they're being ridiculous.
Oh, there is concern from the Europeans that President Zelenskyy is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you
No, it isn't. That's not why
reassure
they're coming
them?
as back. That's not true. No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming.
February
in fact,
Oval Office
they're coming here
meeting
tomorrow
in front of television cameras where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings we've had since then?
Oh no, I know, and I was just up in Alaska watching the one with Vladimir Putin where a red carpet rolled out.
No, but it was Zelensky. We've had more meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So, but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire
as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
This is exactly what he calls it. It's a ridiculous, stupid media narrative. They're looking at Donald Trump. They see this get together in Alaska. They see in Anchorage the red carpet. They see Vladimir Putin, and they're trying to spin it any way they can into a negative against President Donald Trump. When you have the two most powerful leaders in the world sitting down to talk about ending a war where thousands of people have died, you would think that the media would be supportive. They're ridiculing him. They're ridiculing President Donald Trump. They're downplaying the significance of the meeting, and they're before the meeting today, or before Volodymyr Zelensky even gets to the White House, they're already accusing President Donald Trump of being a bully, and they're saying Volodymyr Zelensky had to call in reinforcements in the form of the European leaders, which, look, I mean, this is such a ridiculous argument for a couple reasons. First of all, it's a lie. Second of all, Donald Trump, if he wants to bully Zelensky, he's going to bully Zelensky, and the European leadership is not going to stop him. If Volodymyr Zelensky wants somebody to get in the way of him and Donald Trump having another argument, it's not Keir Starmer. It's not Emmanuel Macron. It's not Giorgia Meloni. These are not people that, I mean, sure, that may be the only squad you can get, but listen, Donald Trump is not scared of anybody. You could bring in every leader from every other country, and Donald Trump would still bully Zelensky if that's what he wanted, but that's not what he wants. He wants peace. He wants an end to the war. He wants the killing to be stopped. And what they're arguing in the press, what the media narrative they're pushing is just so ridiculous. And Marco Rubio, I have to say, I'm shocked. I'm really pleasantly surprised with how well he handled himself, because you could tell there was a moment when he really, I think, just wanted to say something like, Margaret, how stupid are you? But how stupid are you? Because that's not at all what was happening with this whole ABC News was the same thing. What's her name? The old woman that looks like a skeleton with a wig on? I forget her name. But she was complaining that Zelensky got a red carpet. She couldn't believe that Zelensky got the red carpet treatment in Alaska.
Critics of President Trump will say the pomp and circumstance, the red carpet, the warm handshake, that President Trump simply lost that Putin gained there just by being on the world stage and walking down a red carpet with the president. Your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, critics of President Trump are always going to find something to criticize. You don't even pay attention to it anymore. But I will tell you this, Putin is already on the world stage. He's already on the world stage. The guy's conducting a full-scale war in Ukraine. He's already on the world stage. He has the world's largest tactical nuclear arsenal in the world and the second largest strategic nuclear arsenal in the world. He's already on the world stage. When I hear people say that, oh, it elevates him, well, all we do is talk about Putin all the time. All the media's done is talk about Putin all the time for the last 4 or 5 years. That doesn't mean he's right about the war. That doesn't mean he's justified about the war. Put all that aside. It means you're not going to have a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. You're not going to end a war between Russia and Ukraine without dealing with Putin. That's just common sense. I shouldn't even have to say it. So people can say whatever they want. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to get the Russian side to agree to things that they don't want to agree to if we're going to have peace. If not, there'll just be a war. They'll keep killing each other, and life will go on in America and in the rest of the world, but not for Ukraine. So the president has invested a lot of time in trying to bring an end to this war. He deserves credit for doing that. He gets criticism for doing that. He could have just let this war go on. The president could have just said, this is Biden's war. It started under him. We'll do what we can for Ukraine, but we're going to focus on other things. He could have easily said that. But he's the only leader in the
just a
world
final
that can
point
get
here.
Putin to a meeting to talk about serious things.
I mean, it's really weird to me. They think we're putting, all of a sudden, Donald Trump has elevated Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin was the leader of Russia long before Donald Trump was the leader of the United States of America. Vladimir Putin has been invading Ukraine and Crimea and other places since I think he was born. This is a guy that has been the thorn in our proverbial side for a very long time. And when you look at the world stage, when you look at the global, crises and the problems, what you have is you have Vladimir Putin, you have Xi Jinping, and you have Donald Trump. Nobody's elevating him. He's the leader of Russia. It's one of the largest, most populated, richest, and most nuclear equipped countries in the world. Everybody knows Vladimir Putin, and landing him on a runway in Anchorage and having him walk down a red carpet and shake the president's hand, that is not going to elevate him any more than he already is. He invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. All we've been talking about 100% is Vladimir Putin, Zelenskyy and Putin for 4 years. And ABC is trying to say that Donald Trump meeting with him is a bad idea. It's all these people, they're so annoying. And that's why it almost makes Donald Trump and Marco Rubio look good. Marco Rubio, one of the reasons why I think he's been elevated to such a high position and why he has the respect of the president and why there's talk of him being vice president or running on a vice presidential ticket with JD Vance. The reason why I think that happens, the reason why I think we see that is because the media is so stupid. And when the media asks him these questions and they put him in these positions where he has no choice but to set them straight and point out how ridiculous they are and defend the president's positions, I think that what they do is they actually make him even better. They're like, wow, this guy's look at Marco Rubio's even smarter than we thought, because the media is really giving him that platform with which to show how intelligent he really is. And that is something that I think that's something that benefits the United States of America, of course, to have him on our side, which is fantastic. Listen, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on today. First of all, I'd like you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I always tell people, are always like, hey, when can I see you, or how do I hear your podcast? I still have people that think we're on the radio. We're not on the radio anymore. We're right here. So if you're listening, or if we popped up on your feed, great. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you set the notifications. Make sure you tell whatever platform it is. I want to see more of this. I want Mark Kaye all the time. When Mark Kaye goes live, let me know. When Mark Kaye posts a video, I want to know about that too. When Mark Kaye has a brand new podcast, just send it directly to my phone. It's easy to do. We have the technology, but it takes a little bit of effort on your part. You just have to hit that button that says subscribe or notify me or whatever it is. There's a button. You got to hit it. And as soon as you do, you're going to get all the goods every single day. Second of all, tonight in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, we have our big congressional countdown to primary day rally. This is our first big rally. We've got, I believe, hundreds of Patriots that are scheduled to come, which is fantastic. And we're going to pack the place. We're going to pack the joint. Sneakers is going to be wall to wall. We're going to have signs, the Mark Kaye for Congress signs for the first 100 people. We're going to have hats that you can also collect for sale, which is very exciting. We're going to have all kinds of great stuff. The other thing that's going to happen is that I'll be giving a speech. We have a couple of speakers, actually, I'm very excited about. And if you can't make it to Jacksonville Beach live today at 6 p.m., if you can't make it to Sneakers at 6 p.m. for the rally, you can always watch it here, because we're going to be live streaming on YouTube and Rumble. Live streaming this thing on YouTube and Rumble. It's not going to be your traditional podcast. It's not going to be me sitting at a desk. We'll have some speakers. We'll have a little stage. The stage is really cool. We got a little stage. We set it all up. We've got a little podium. We're rolling this is the real deal, folks. You're going to think you're at a Donald Trump rally, only I won't be wearing a suit probably. And there may not be, Lee Greenwood won't be there. Other than that, it's pretty much going to be the exact same thing. And that's at Sneakers Sports Grill rather, in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. You can go to my Facebook page. It's right. We have over 200 people who've already responded to this event. So like I said, and when you have 200 people respond, nobody goes to these things alone. So 200 people responding means there's going to be at least 400 people there, because everyone's going to bring a guest. That's how these things go. So personally, I'm very excited about it. It's going to be really, really incredible. And I hope that you do join us either live in person or virtually for this great event. Something else that popped up that I wanted to share with you before we get back into the whole Zelenskyy thing. And I think now I meant to monitor. I got to pull up the feed, because I believe that Zelenskyy is now at the White House. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, look at that. Is this live? It looks like Zelenskyy has shown up at the White House. It looks like he is. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick and let's listen in. Because they're giggling about something.
Yes, please. And thanks to our partners and that you supported this.
Pull this up.
After our meeting, we can have leaders who are around us: UK and France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO. I mean, all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much for being here.
President Trump.
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, President Zelenskyy, you say in a post on X today, Russia must end this war, which it itself started. President Trump, you say President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to. Which is it?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we're going to have a meeting. I think if everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat. And I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And, is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed, and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelenskyy here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards? Right
Well,
now?
I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be. Look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
By the way, breaking news: Zelenskyy is wearing a tie.
To keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support, American and European partners, and we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Mr. President,
if the peace deal will be achieved, are you going to be willing to send American peacekeepers to Ukraine?
Well, we're going to work with Ukraine. We're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, the peace is going to stay long term. This is very long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again. We're going to make sure that everything's good. We'll work with Russia. We're going to work with Ukraine, and we're going to make sure it works. And I think if we can get to peace, it's going to work. I have no doubt about it.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved. Yes.
Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one. A lot of reasons for it, and they'll be talking about it for a long time. But they'll be talking about the others. Look, India, Pakistan. We're talking about the big places. When you look at you just take a look at some of these wars. You go to Africa and take a look at that. Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo. That's been going on for 31 years. And so we've done a total of 6, and we really have 6, not including the fact that we obliterated, and it turned out to be a total obliteration, the nuclear, as you said, the future nuclear capability of Iran. And this one, I think we're going to get solved also. I feel confident we're going to get it solved.
Like guarantees or like the special envoy put forward.
Thanks, Mr. President. Can you tell us about your conversations with European leaders and what they need to see to support an end to the war?
Yeah, well, we're going to be meeting with a great representative group and 7 very powerful, very big countries and great people, all friends of mine and friends of yours. And we're going to have some suggestions made. They want to see peace. They would like to see peace. Go ahead, please. In the red.
President Trump, do you think it's fair for Ukraine and for Russia to achieve a lasting and durable peace if Ukraine cedes its territory?
Donald Trump, by the way, being very, very vague in every question. Not a lot of specifics, which means he's got some information he doesn't want to share.
Just to answer the first part of your question, we're going to have a lasting peace. I hope it's going to be immediately. I hope it doesn't have to go on. And I think people of the whole world is going to be very happy when that's announced. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you posted on social media, Mr. President, a very touching letter from the First Lady. And the letter was handed
Well, there's Marco and JD,
President
Pete,
Putin.
Scott Bessent,
And it calls for an end to the war, essentially,
Witkoff,
because of the children and the children's future.
Susie Wiles.
Why did the First Lady feel that letter was necessary? Was it because she believes that Mr. Putin is the aggressor in the war? Is a similar letter being hand-delivered to President Zelenskyy?
So the First Lady felt very strongly. She's watched the same thing that you watch and that I watch.
Yeah, Melania wrote a letter.
I see things that you don't get to see, and it's horrible. But when she's got a great love of children, she has a wonderful son that she loves, probably more than anybody, including me. I hate to say it, but she loves her son. She loves children, and she hates to see something like this happening. And that goes for other wars too. I mean, she sees the heartbreak, the parents, the funerals that you see on television. Always funerals. We want to see something other than funerals. No, she felt. It was a beautiful letter. It was very well received by him. And she did ask me to say, she would love to see this end. She would love to see it end. And she says it very openly, very proudly, and with great sorrow because so many people have been killed.
Mr. President, last week.
Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, sir. I've got a question for each of you. First of all, Mr. President Zelenskyy, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same.
He is wearing a suit, but we don't know if there's a tie or not.
I remember that.
No, my first question for you, President
But you
Zelenskyy.
are in the same suit. You see, I changed. You are not.
Maybe yours is much better. Real quickly, upon peace, God willing we get peace, are you open to holding an election in your country?
Yes, of course. We are open for election, yes. We have to do safety circumstances. And a little bit, we need to work in the parliament, because during the war you can't have elections, but we can do security. We need, we need a truth, yes, everywhere, in the battlefield, in the sky, in the sea, yeah, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, No more elections. Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake.
You like this
is.
idea?
Yeah, no, this is
No.
Speaking of news, I got a question for you. This sounds insane for me even to ask this. But do you think the American media really doesn't even want a peace deal because they've seen they've been so critical of you every step of the way?
It's literally what I said like 20 minutes ago.
It's an amazing phenomenon. I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say I made a bad deal. The level of hatred and animosity is incredible. Not with all. I mean, we have great people up here. We also have terrible people up there that I think are told what to say. But, you know, in solving all of these wars, they don't even write about it. You know, I saw major wars. I saw wars that have been going on for 31, 35, and 37, and a couple of quicker ones. One that was going to go into a full-blown deal very quickly. You know what the one I'm talking about. It was a big one. But they don't even write about that. No matter what I do, no matter what, and you know, this is not anything to do with you. It's probably to your advantage in a certain way. But no matter what I do, no matter what deal I make, from my standpoint, you'll come out good. Maybe President Putin will come out good. But they'll say, Trump was absolutely horrible. It's just that, and I've lived with that for a long time. I've lived with it since just before the first election. I used to get great publicity. Now I get the worst publicity anyone's ever gotten in office, but I won in a landslide, so the people understand. They're the only ones that count, ultimately. But I've also had great
people are the only ones that
count. I've had journalists that are very good. But it's very sad when you do the right thing. As an example, they said, because of the fact that Vladimir Putin came to American soil, this was a tremendous defeat for Donald Trump. No, it was really wonderful that he did it. It was a hard thing for him to do, to be honest with you. It was the opposite of what they said, but they said it. Now, if he didn't come, they'd say that was also bad for Trump. You know, there's no way. And there's just a great dishonesty of the press, and I think that's why it's lost its credibility. You know, its credibility is at an all-time low. We have a thing going on right now in D.C. We went from the most unsafe place anywhere to a place that now friends are calling me up, Democrats are calling me up, and they're saying, sir, I want to thank you. My wife and I went out to dinner last night for the first time in 4 years. And Washington, D.C. is safe. And you did that in 4 days. I'll tell you, it's safe. I had another friend of mine. He has a son who's a great golfer. He's on tour. And he came in fourth yesterday in the big tournament where Scotty Scheffler made the great shot. And he said his son is going to dinner in Washington, D.C. tonight. I said, would you have allowed that to happen a year ago? He said, no way. No way. He said, what you've done is incredible. And I think the people realize it. But the press says, he's a dictator. He's trying to take over. No, all I want is security for our people. But people that haven't gone out to dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2 years are going out to dinner. And the restaurants the last 2 days were busier than they've been in a long time. Thank you.
You know this? He looked at when he said dictator, he looked over at Zelensky, which is kind of funny.
TG and not be attacked. The city is safe.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you warned of what you called severe consequences if a 30-day ceasefire or any type of ceasefire were not agreed to by Russia. Will there be severe consequences? Does that change because of
I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But if you look at the 6 deals that we made peace and you know, long-term, long-running wars, I didn't do any ceasefires. Would I like the concept. You know, I like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately,
yeah.
As opposed to in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it takes. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight. I wish they could stop. I'd like them to stop. But strategically, that could be a disadvantage for one side or the other. But all of these deals I made without even the mention of the words ceasefire.
Can you explain the decision to offer Ukraine Article 5 like security guarantees, but stop short of pushing for their full membership?
Yeah, well, we haven't done anything on that yet. If you look back and you go back long before President Putin, it was always a statement that they would never allow Ukraine into NATO. So that was a statement that was made, but we haven't discussed any of that yet. We're going to be discussing it today, but we will give them very good protection, very good security. That's part of it. And the people that are waiting for us, they are, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out also.
Thank you, President Trump. The United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this war effort in Ukraine.
Biden.
At best, it is a stalemate, and the killing continues. So, President Trump, how much more is the United States willing to give Ukraine? And President Zelenskyy, how much more do you want?
Well, I'll start off just by saying we're not giving anything now. We're selling weapons. This is something before, I guess the number is well over $300 billion. That was under Joe Biden, a corrupt politician, not a smart man, never was. By the way, go back 40 years. He was not a smart man 40 years ago either, but now he's in particular bad. This was done by a corrupt administration that shouldn't have been in, and frankly, if the right results of the election were given, if I were president, this war would have never taken place, and he would have been very happy because he would have liked to have seen. I mean, they went through hell. He went through hell. This war would have never happened, and the people that were killed, a couple of million people, a lot of people with soldiers and everything else, and the people that have been displaced and forced into other areas and other countries because of what's happened, none of that would have happened. And I'm just saying that he was a horrible president, whether it was the borders or this. He was just a horrible, corrupt president.
Mr. President,
you want to answer?
Did you want to answer that question, by the way?
We have possibility now to buy weapon from the United States. We are thankful for this program and this opportunity. We are thankful for Europe. They pay for this. And through NATO program, for example, Pearl and etc., we have some programs where we can have some money to finance this. And this is a part, I think, it's not a part for the war and to defend us. It also will be a part for security guarantees, to strengthen our army, to rearm Ukrainian army. This is very, very important. And it depends how much money we need to rearm. For example, the question of air defense, we spoke about it with President Trump, and I'm happy that we have now bilateral decisions and we work on it with production, American production. Nobody in Europe has so many air defense like Patriots, for example. We need it very much, and this is also about defending.
So, Donald Trump saying we're not giving him anything, we're selling it.
Military equipment in the world by far. You mentioned the Patriots. How good are they?
Systems.
We have systems. They're literally 100% foolproof, and it's really like shooting two bullets. You know, two bullets hitting each other in the air in a space like this. The chance is 100%. It's 99 to 100%. So we sell the equipment to NATO. And NATO does what, I don't know what the arrangement is that you have with, but I know that they want you to have that equipment. And we're getting the best equipment in the world, but they pay us for the equipment. Under Biden, it was just crazy what was going on. I believe the number is over 300. I think it could be $350 billion.
I believe that's correct.
And money and everything else. And we've made more progress in settling this war in the last 2 months than they made in 4 years. This should have been settled a long time ago, but it should have never happened. Yeah, please.
You pushed out on social media.
Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines.
Oh, he's jumping ahead.
Well, that's a very off-topic. Just really quickly, mail-in ballots are corrupt.
That's very off-topic. But let me talk about it.
You can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt and Do you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change in the
Zelensky's
machines,
not comfortable with the voter fraud conversation.
all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster results. The machines, I mean, they say we're going to have the results in 2 weeks. With paper ballots, you have the results that night. Most people, many countries use paper ballots. It's the most secure form. So between paper ballots, very, very important, paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me.
We love crime.
On the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed.
It's true.
Like all the people you've been watching get so badly hurt. I'm glad. I hate to take your time in this, but I'm glad you asked me that question.
Sorry.
We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt. You know, when you go to a voting booth and you do it the right way and you go to a state that runs it properly, you go in, they even ask me. They asked me for my license plate, for identity. I said, I don't know if I have it. He said, sir, you have to have it. I was very impressed, actually. But it's very hard to cheat with mail-in voting. As you know what happens in California, it's so corrupt, where some people get 5, 6, 7 ballots delivered to them. Now, we got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things. Otherwise, you don't have. We have strong borders now. In 90 days, Mr. President, we didn't have 0 in 3 months. Not one person came in illegally into our country. In fact, even I find that hard to believe, but it's run by a little bit of a liberal group that put out the numbers, so I guess it's, but 0, 0, and 0. You go back a year ago, 2 years ago, 3, millions of people poured into our country. It was terrible. Thank you very much.
What guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything.
Oh, I need everything.
Really,
of course.
It includes two parts. First, strong Ukrainian army. That's what I began to discuss with your colleagues. And it's a lot about weapon and then people and training missions and intelligence. And second, we will discuss with our partners. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends.
Mr. President, are you going to commit American troops to that NATO-like protection in order to get President Zelenskyy to a deal today?
Well, I don't know if you define it that way, but NATO-like, I mean, we're going to give, we have people waiting in another room right now. They're all here from Europe, biggest people in Europe, and they want to give protection. They feel very strongly about it, and we'll help them out with that. I think it's very important. I think it's very important to get the deal done.
You've been involved to the peacekeeping in Ukraine since your first day in the administration. What would you say to the Ukrainian people right now who are suffering under the Russian attacks and hoping that the American people will stand with them?
Well, I know Ukrainian people. I've known many over the years. They're great people. They're smart. They're energetic. They love their country. I mean, they love their country, and we want to get this war ended. That's all I can do. I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped. Very important.
Was there any aspect of your discussion with Vladimir Putin that left you disappointed?
Look, We just spoke to.
What was the question? Something about his discussion were you disappointed with? Is that what you said?
Putin indirectly, and we're going to have a phone call right after these meetings today. And we may or may not have a trilat. If we don't have a trilat, then the fighting continues. And if we do, we have a good chance. I think if we have a trilat, there's a good chance of maybe ending it. But he's expecting my call when we're finished with this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
There we go. So Donald Trump getting the notice, getting a little wave. All right, we gotta wrap this up. And there it goes. So Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Now there seems to be some question as to whether or not he was wearing a tie. I immediately thought at first that he was wearing a tie, but just like a black tie. It seems like he was all blacked out. He's like in mourning or something. He's got like the black suit, black shirt, black pants. I thought it was a black tie, but on closer, verification or observation, it doesn't seem like there was a tie. But when you're wearing all black, like I think he's trying to be Johnny Cash or something. He's trying to be like Vladimir Cash. I don't know what he's the man in black. Anyway, it was really nothing surprising. It was President Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelenskyy sitting there with the rest of his cabinet members. J.D. Vance was there, Marco Rubio was there, Scott Bessent was there, Pete Hegseth, all the major players in the administration that are involved in the war effort and involved in finding the peace. Susie Wiles was also there. And Steve Witkoff. And then these reporters barking questions at President Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and neither one of them giving too much because they are it's an active negotiation. It's an active negotiation. And President Donald Trump met with Vladimir Putin, and he's not going to say what Vladimir Putin and he discussed. He's not going to say what kind of demands Vladimir Putin made because that would be stupid. Vladimir Zelenskyy is going to sit there and he's not going to say, I'm going to give away my country. They're in the middle of an advanced stage of negotiations for a peace deal between two warring countries that have been warring for over 3 years, almost 4. No one's going to say, in fact, that happened over the weekend. I wasn't going to play this clip, but I'm going to play this clip because Marco Rubio was asked what concessions were going to be made. And he was like, why would I tell you that?
Can you name any concessions that Vladimir Putin made during this meeting? Have any
I wouldn't name him on your program.
Have any concessions
I wouldn't name
been
him
asked?
on your program. Why would I do that?
Where is the pressure?
Of course, because you can't have a peace agreement. No, you can't have a peace agreement unless both sides give and get. You can't have a peace agreement unless both sides make concessions. That's a fact. That's true in virtually any negotiation. If not, it's just called surrender. And neither side is going to surrender. So both sides are going to have to make concessions. So, of course, concessions were asked. But what utility would there be of me going on a program and tell you we wagged our finger at Putin and told him you must do this and you must do that? It's only going to make it harder and less likely that they're going to agree to these things. So these negotiations, as much as everyone would love it to be a live pay-per-view event, these discussions only work best when they are conducted privately in serious negotiations in which people who have to go back and respond to constituencies, because even totalitarian governments have constituencies they have to respond to. People have to go back and defend these agreements that they make, and figure out a way to explain them to people. So we need to create space for concessions to be made. But of course, concessions were asked.
But of course, we're not going to tell you, and you probably should know that. And now you just look like now you made me make you look like an idiot. Marco Rubio says. Now, thanks to that question, I had to put you in your place, Martha McCallum. Or is that her name? I don't know. Old lady with the wig. That's what happens when they go on these. That's what happens when they go on these shows. And except for Fox, I guess Maria Bartiromo also had Marco Rubio on. She did an okay job. She just asked, "Look, what does Zelenskyy get out of all of this?" And Marco Rubio was pretty honest.
What are you expecting to present to Zelenskyy tomorrow?
Well, I think tomorrow's conversations, a lot of it will be centered around what are the kinds of security guarantees that Ukraine is looking for. Because what Ukraine is looking for here is the war ends. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we make sure that in 2 or 3 years, the Russians don't come back at us? So they want guarantees built up so that they can protect themselves or prevent such a war from occurring in the future. So the details of what that would look like is something that hopefully we'll spend a lot of time discussing tomorrow. We had a long conversation about it yesterday with the national security advisors of multiple European countries. Some work has already gone into it, but now we're at a stage where we need to build some details on it, and then ultimately, obviously present that to the Russian side, who and get them to accept it. But first, we have to have our ducks in order.
I think that what people in the media are forgetting or not realizing or just ignoring because they're people in the media is, they're blaming Donald Trump, and they're saying Donald Trump bullied Volodymyr Zelenskyy back in February when he came to the White House the first time. And Donald Trump's probably going to bully Zelenskyy again. That's why Margaret Brennan said that Volodymyr Zelenskyy wanted all these Europeans there. That's why Giorgia Meloni, the 5'2" Italian prime minister or Italian president, she's there to protect Volodymyr Zelenskyy from President Donald Trump. Keir Starmer, who, that guy is, I don't know that he's ever stood up to anybody. He is there to protect Volodymyr Zelenskyy from getting bullied. Emmanuel Macron, who 2 weeks ago got beat up by his own wife on national television, got slapped in the face by Mrs. Macron in front of God and everybody. He is there to protect Volodymyr Zelenskyy from Donald Trump. This is the narrative that they're saying. But let me ask you, let me flip it around for you. Maybe the reason that these people are there, maybe the reason Europe is there, maybe the reason President Donald Trump invited the European coalition, including Mark Rutte from NATO, and the Ursula, who's in charge of the EU. Maybe the reason that Volodymyr Zelenskyy is there with all of these European leaders isn't to protect Volodymyr Zelenskyy from Donald Trump, but maybe to protect this deal from Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Maybe the reason that the Europeans are there is to talk some sense into Volodymyr Zelenskyy, to say, this has been going on too long. It's too expensive. You've been getting way too much free stuff. You're not the commander that you think you are. You're going up against Vladimir Putin, who has more money than you, more troops than you, more nuclear weapons than you, and does not really care because he's never going to face any kind of defeat in any kind of election. He's more of a dictator than you are even. Maybe it's time for you to make some concessions and play let's make a deal with this war so that people can stop dying, we can stop wasting money on you, and we can get back to life as normal in Europe, because this affects everybody on the European continent. When Russia is in a war, it affects every single country, many of which border Russia. Poland and Germany and Finland and all those other places. There is a massive stress on the entire European continent whenever you have a war with Russia. And that is exactly what's been going on now for 4 years. So I don't think they're there to protect Volodymyr Zelenskyy from Donald Trump bullying him. I think they're there to protect the peace agreement from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who has a history of blowing his stack, who has a history of disrespecting people, who has a history of bad decision making, who has a history of not wanting to remove himself from the spotlight. Because remember, again, for the last 4 years, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been wined and dined and flown around the world. He's been given billions of dollars and magazine covers, and he has fancy yachts and Ferraris and palatial estates in Spain. He's a household name. He's been flown to the Capitol building where Nancy, I almost called her Nancy Ukraine. That'd be a great name for her. Nancy Pelosi yelled out, "Slava Ukraina! Slava Ukraina!" They waved little flags. They gave him a big bag of gold bars or whatever it was. I mean, why would you want to give all of that up? Remember, Volodymyr Zelenskyy knows that he was a 2-bit, cut-rate, washed-up comedian who became president of Ukraine. Then this war started, and he became a global phenomenon, a superhero, a poster child against Russian aggression, the underdog du jour. Well, if he knows that if the war ends, if peace breaks out, he goes back to being Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the 2-bit comedian who became president of Ukraine. And then on top of that, there's going to be an election. You heard it right there. Donald Trump said, or one of the reporters said, would you have an election? He goes, of course, we will have an election, but we can't have an election when there's war going on. When war ends, we have election. He talks kind of like Yoda. Right before he was dying, election, first war and then election. And he knows it, and he said it right there. He does not want to not be the president of Ukraine. But if the war ends, there's an election, and there's a pretty good chance that he will not be the president of Ukraine. And what's he going to do then? I mean, little does he know. Here's how you can solve this, right? I'll tell you right now. Here's how you can end the war. The war will end if somebody like Netflix or Spotify or one of those agencies like CAS or whatever, I don't even know what it is. The agencies that book Kamala Harris and Joe Biden on speaking tours, get them to get Zelenskyy and his wife like a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal to produce documentaries. Give them like a Spotify contract for 20 mil. Give them something. Get them a speaking deal or a book deal worth $25 million and say, this is contingent on you stepping down, calling for an election, and getting a new leader. And then the new leader will negotiate a peace settlement. That's all it takes. It takes, if Spotify or Netflix or any of those other people that paid Obama, how much money did Netflix give Obama for those movies that nobody watched? How much money did they waste on that podcast that that Harry and Meghan Markle did that nobody downloaded and listened to? Give the money to Ukraine. Give it to Zelenskyy. Let him end the war. Let him step down as president. He can go on a speaking tour, and he can still have his Ferraris. He can still have his palatial estates in Spain. He can still be on the covers of magazines, and he won't have to worry about flying around the country and getting yelled at or bullied by Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin or anyone else. It's pretty simple. I think I just solved the war. Somebody, I want credit though. If that's how they end up ending the war, I want credit. Hey, by the way, speaking of ending things, MSDNC, as it's been called, they are now rebranding. You may remember that they've been abandoned by their parent company, NBC. NBC realizes that MSNBC in the last election, really over the last 10 years, ever since they were branded MSDNC and they made these ridiculous claims about COVID and election interference and January 6th and Donald Trump being a Russian spy, ever since they glommed on to the fact that, they took Trump derangement system, TDS, and they made it kind of like their daily, it's like their daily production meeting was basically just a TDS support group. Ever since they saw the likes of their ratings being dragged down by the likes of Joy Reid and the other one, Tiffany, I even forget her name, they've started firing people left, right, and center to the point where now they've just had to abandon everything. NBC is cutting their losses, and that means that there will be a rebrand. There will be a rebrand of MSNBC. And Joe Scarborough this morning on his show, which is still on the air, surprisingly, announced what MSNBC will now be called.
All right, we have breaking news as it pertains to our network. This morning, a new name for the network by the end of the year. We will become MS Now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up. I like it.
There it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty. As we go to Versant, we're going to be moving in this direction. MS Now, which I got to say, I got a call yesterday afternoon, and they're saying, "We hope you're okay." We're going. I was like, "What do you mean? Like this shows we're independent." And what I've said on this show time and time again is you look at the people that are running the company, they're entrepreneurial. Right. Like when you have somebody come into your company after working for like big corporations and you're talking, you're saying, and they go, "We want you to be entrepreneurial. We want you to come up with new ideas. We want you to push the boundaries." I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about this too. It's like, what's in a name? Well, whatever you put into the name. Well,
That's not how the quote goes, but that's okay. MS Now, my source for news, opinion, and world. See, there's a couple things we should comment here. MS Now, first of all, looks like Ms. Now. Like, hello, Ms. Now. I thought, you throw an R and there'd be Mrs. Now or Mr. Now. Ms. Now is what they're going to be calling themselves. So Ms. Now, they looked at, I guess they came up with the name first, right? They were like, okay, we want to be MS Now. Great. What can that stand for? Well, then they had to brainstorm. They probably just put it into ChatGPT and said, what could MS Now be what do you call it? What do you call those things? Short for, or what could it stand for? So they look at it and they go, an acronym, that's what it is. So they go, MS Now. All right, ChatGPT said, my source for news, opinion, and world. My source for news kind of makes sense. My source for opinion, fine. My source for world, that doesn't make any sense at all. News, opinion, and world. This is just something that some generator spit out and they tried drastically to make into a thing. Also, the bigger issue is that the name of the network and the ownership of the network is not the reason why the ratings were horrible. The name of the network and the ownership of the network and the branding of the network, and whether you were MSNBC or MSDNC or MSNOW or Ms. Now or Mr. Now or he, she, they, them now, it doesn't matter. The reason nobody watched is because your content is horrible. And unless you could have kept MSNBC. Well, you're right. That had to go either way. But the fact that Joe Scarborough is on there saying we're changing the name of our network, but nothing else. We're changing the name of our network, but I'm still going to be here every morning with Mika Brzezinski. That shows that they're not serious at all about changing the network. That shows that they're like, all right, we got to change our name because the NBC's dumping us. They know that we're a sinking ship. So let's come up with some brand new graphic. We'll do a little logo. We'll change the colors around. We'll call it Ms. Now, and then we'll keep all the same schlocky talent, all the Trump derangement syndrome talent. We'll keep all the same obnoxious personalities that nobody watches on the air, and we'll think we're going to do something totally the same and expect a different outcome. You know what they say that is? They say that is the definition of insanity. Speaking of insanity, Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell continues his downward spiral. You know, it's interesting to me because there are three kinds of Democrats. There are the old school Democrats who've just been around forever. You know, like they're in their 80s, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all those old Democrats. They've been, you know, they'll act crazy. They'll say dumb things. They'll put cheese on the raw side of the cheeseburger. They don't care. But at the end of the day, these old school Democrats have been around since the 80s. They only know one way of doing something. It's corruption and blackmail and treachery and all that other stuff. And that's how they continue to roll. Then you've got these new school Democrats that are really just like obnoxious Instagram influencers. They're like, you know, if they weren't in Congress, they'd be making prank videos on YouTube for a living. And so the Jasmine Crockett's, the LaMonica McIvers, AOC, for example, they come in and they're using their social media streams, their live streams, they're using their X accounts, they're using whatever they have. Their job, their goal is to simply just agitate and irritate and get clicks. They want to clickbait their way into whatever it is they want to do. And they're getting a lot of notoriety. So you've got the old school Democrats who everybody knows because they've been around since the Capitol Dome was erected. And then you've got the new school Democrats who are getting famous on social media. And then in the middle of the road, you got all these kind of middle-aged Democrats. They haven't been around for like 50 years, but they've been around long enough to maybe get some name recognition, but they don't have the kind of name recognition that these young kids have because they haven't embraced social media the way that these new school Democrats are doing. So now they're trying desperately to become relevant in any way, shape, or form. And one of them is Eric Swalwell, who has been doing this series of live streaming from the grocery store. It's really kind of pathetic. But he's now taking on the attack tactics that these new angry Democrats have been embracing. Al Green shaking his cane at President Donald Trump. Jasmine Crockett yelling and screaming obscenities all the time and calling the governor of Texas Governor Hot Wheels. All these things over and over again that they do. He's now saying, you know what? I can do that too. I can threaten Republicans as well. And he's threatening on live television to kill Republicans and bury them under the Capitol.
When they go low, we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do, because this is about protecting democracy. And right now, as you see, DC has been militarized, and we were weak as Democrats, frankly.
Okay, so when the Republicans go low, we're going to bury them under the Capitol. Now, did he say we're going to kill them? No. But if you bury somebody, usually they're dead, hopefully. Or if this is like that scene in Casino, spoiler alert, where they just throw the guys in the pit in the cornfield and toss dirt on top of them, then you're burying them alive and eventually they'll be dead. So either we're going to bury them under the Capitol. Eric Swalwell is threatening Republicans on national television. And the reason he's threatening Republicans, by the way, is because they want to keep folks in D.C. safe. They want to keep the citizens and the visitors and the tourists and themselves and their staff and their family members safe while in the District of Columbia. And Donald Trump also wants to do his best to keep all of these people safe while they're in the District of Columbia. And Eric Swalwell says that's going low. And if you go low, we are going to murder you and bury your body under the Capitol where no one will find you.
When they go low, we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do, because this is about protecting democracy. And right now, as you see, DC has been militarized, and we were weak as Democrats, frankly.
All right, so we were weak as Democrats. They were allowed to militarize DC. We were weak, so now we're going to be strong, and we're going to go out and we're going to kill him and bury him under the Capitol, which is that's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to say. I don't think he could get under the Capitol. Fun fact: there was one person who was supposed to be buried under the Capitol, and that's George Washington. And they actually call the lower level of the Capitol. Do they call it the catacombs or the tomb? I think they call it the tomb. The tomb or it's one of those. And the reason they call it that is because it was supposed to be George Washington's tomb, but Martha Washington said, we're going to bury him at home. So he's buried like 50 miles down the road in what's it called? Mount Vernon. That's where George Washington's burial spot is. But Eric Swalwell is sporting the Zelenskyy t-shirt.
When they go low,
I don't know if you can't see it on the thing, but he's on the news. He's sitting in front of the Capitol Dome. He's on CNN. He's wearing a sport coat, but he's wearing a black t-shirt that says like "fight" something on it because he's unshaven. He's trying to be a tough guy. He's trying to be socially relevant, like all of these young kids who are stealing his spotlight. This is what they're doing, folks. This is what's happening. This is the new Democrat Party. This is what they do. They go into Congress, they get elected somehow, and then they use their social media, they use their anger, and they use it to clickbait and to get on television, and then they just threaten violence. They either threaten violence or just get violent. We saw LaMonica McIver throw her big old Kool-Aid self against one of those guards at the federal penitentiary. We've seen Jasmine Crockett repeatedly attack and call for threats of violence against, Ted Cruz and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, Governor Hot Wheels. We've seen all of these people. Even crusty old Maxine Waters was talking about hitting people in the face again. All these Democrats, all they know is violence and threatening violence. And now Eric Swalwell's getting into the mix. And that's why it's important that you have combative conservatives in Congress to fight back. You have combative conservatives in Congress to do what needs to be done to make sure that we have representation that will be equal to and able to stand up to these crazy maniacal Democrats who are going to do whatever, who are going to bury us under the Capitol building. I mean, we need Republicans in Congress that are gonna be like, oh yeah, bro, let's go. I'd like to see you try. Listen, that's why tonight, by the way, at 6 p.m. Eastern time at Sneakers Sports Grill in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, we're going to be hosting our countdown to primary day rally. It is 1 year till primary day. Our shot at becoming the next congressperson, the next representative from Florida's 5th District, our shot at defeating John Rutherford and sending him into a retirement, not an early retirement. It's probably a late retirement. It is 1 year from today. 1 year from right now will be primary day. The polls will be open and you'll be able to go vote if you're in Florida's 5th District. And we're celebrating that countdown tonight at Sneakers in Jack's Beach. Swing on by. You can get yourself a free yard sign. You can get yourself a hat. There'll be speeches galore. It's going to be so much fun. And we're really going to, it's our first big event as we head towards saving the Republic in style. The countdown begins today at 6 p.m. Listen, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to set the notifications because we're here every single day. We are here every single day bringing you the information you need and the entertainment you want and the inspiration to keep fighting, to know. We want you to be aware, fully aware of what's going on in this country, who's coming at you, how you can stop them, how I can stop them, how we can stop them, so that no matter who attacks us, we can continue to fight, so we can save the Republic. A note, by the way, about our after party. We were going to have an after party. We usually have after parties on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, but because we have the event tonight that we have to go set up for, we're going to do after parties on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So no after party today, but then you'll have after parties Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday if you're a member